What is law? An analysis of the definition of law and topics associated with it. If you're seeing this in Ontario, this is a good companion to go along with your grade 11 Understanding Canadian Law course or the grade 12 Canadian and International Law course. If, however, you're an international observer, welcome. I think you'll find similarities and applicable things to your country. Let's begin by noting a difference between the natural sciences, like biology, chemistry, physics, etc., which deal with the expansive physical world, and the social sciences, which deal with human behavior. For example, anthropology looks at culture, psychology looks at mental function, sociology looks at groups in society, etc. Law is a social science. It is one insofar as regulating and establishing an order in society, plus resolving situations of contention. In studying law, we find that definitions aren't easy, and there are challenges in the definition, but that isn't unique. We can see this with many other subjects. While there is no exact uniform definition, we could go back and look at some definitions of the past by philosophers, let's say, or look at some modern definitions by different law professors. Even though there are these challenges and difference of opinion, they're not big gaps. We could find some similarity amongst different textbooks and philosophers. Now let's look at the etymology of the word law. The English word law comes from the Latin word lex. Lex, in turn, is derived from the Latin word ligare, which means to bind or to tie people in society to do something, because it obliges, or obligare, as they would say in Latin, for one to either act or not act upon something. It's interesting that this term ligare and obligare is the root, as Thomas Aquinas, a philosopher, commented, quote, "A man does not make up a law for himself, but by his very act of recognizing a law enacted for him, he binds himself to its observance," unquote. So we can see this Thomistic thought pretty much sums up the philosophical definition of law and the etymology from the Romans. Now, lex is actually a nominative singular declension of the Latin word. But if we take the genitive singular declension, it is actually legis. And we get various words in English from that, like legislature, which is a place to make law, to legislate, which is to make law itself, or legislation, the law. So now, let us look at the definition of law. I'm going to present to you two definitions. The first definition may be called a kind of standard textbook definition you may find in law school or maybe in a high school textbook on law, and it can be defined as the following. Quote, "Law is a concept, a system, and a set of rules impartially applied by an authority for regulating human behavior and settling disputes," unquote. A second definition may be called a philosophical definition. You may find it with the ancient Greeks or the medieval philosophers like Thomas Aquinas, and they would define law as something the following. Quote, "Law is a rule and measure of acts by which humans are induced to act or refrain from acting. Consequently, law is something pertaining to reason, which is the first principle of human acts," unquote. This has been a short summary on the definition of law.